Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to AVX Live. I'm Joe Gilderson, President of Corporate Audiovisual Services. Our co-host, Ryan Finch, is live right now, but on a different event. He's working with Fast Company Magazine right now. We do expect him to be joining us again next week. Just as a couple of quick reminders, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn channels. As you guys know, we're live on those right now. But this way we can keep bringing some interesting content in the future. We're here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. And just make sure to, leave a comment, be a part of the show. We'll bring you in. We'll have some fun. Now, over the last month or so, we've discussed the opening of the events industry with experts from hotels and catering and the production side. And with the announcement this week of New York State hitting 70% on the vaccination rate, now kind of the floodgates are really starting to open up on the in-person side of events and that experience. And, so there's a lot of things going on with that, and people are trying to figure it all out right now. But today I want to tie in some of that with our virtual experiences that we've all been involved in for the last 15 months. This way, we have a better feel for how to use technology in our upcoming hybrid experiences, because that is still going to be very much a part of everyone's life. So with that, we're going to bring on today's guest, Nick McElhinney. So let me tell you a little bit about Nick. Okay, Nick owns MackTeck Solutions, which is a website design and development firm that specializes in corporate websites, nonprofit websites, and virtual event platforms. In the 20 years of building attention-catching web presences for companies in many different industries, Nick has gained a substantial amount of experience in creating websites that work. His goal-oriented approach allows for custom-tailored websites developed to meet each company's unique requirements. So please, let's welcome our friend and colleague, Nick McElhinney.
Hey, Joe. How are you?
Hey, Nick. Does that sound like you, all those words I was saying right there in the beginning?
I don't know. I think you made some of that up.
I mean, I didn't even show this picture right here. I mean,
oh, man.
Listen, just be glad you're not really big on social media, or I would have dug into that and pulled out some good photos.
I know. That's one reason why I'm not. I don't need anything embarrassing coming from you.
But where's the fun if I can't do that?
I know.
I don't know. All right, we'll stick right to business then. But we won't get too deep in that. So okay. Listen, how did you get started in designing websites, and how'd you start MackTeck?
Okay, so when I was in college, I went to school, went to college for computer science. I was there. I did my college thing, but I needed some extra money, so I started building websites for like local companies where I grew up. In the Westchester area, somebody would like a pizza place or something, we need a website, so I built it for them. I got out of college. I started working in software development. Really didn't like it. So I said, you know what? I can translate this to websites. I got a job at a website firm. I enjoyed working there. And then I said to myself, I think I could do this on my own. And that's when MackTeck was born. Over that time, there were a lot of unknowns and things like that. But still, I said, I'm young. I'm just going to hit take a leap and start a company. And here we are.
So it doesn't sound like you really spent a lot of time working for somebody else.
No, not really. I mean, of course, younger years working in like restaurants, things like that. Yeah. But actually working for an actual corporate boss. No, not really.
I think that's great.
I think so too.
I mean, there's so many experiences that are unpleasant that you missed out on.
I know. And I've heard about them. So I'm happy I missed out on them.
All right. Well, that's good. And now, when did you physically move down to North Carolina?
About 6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, I moved down. Just decided, hey, you know what? I want warmer weather. My wife was working in Manhattan, commuting from Tarrytown to Manhattan, hour and a half round trip, rain, snow, sleet, whatever. And she hated it. And she's like, we have to, end this. And so we just decided, let's go south, and the rest is history.
That's great. I mean, you're in one of the real businesses that can work from anywhere.
Yeah.
So you've been virtual for, 6 times longer than everybody else.
Pretty much, I really haven't picked up many clients in North Carolina. Almost all of mine are in New York. I've carried them all down here. Very few have left because the service is the same, because most of them I've never actually really met in person anyway. So.
Well, and you're still doing the same work.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah, same work. So it didn't really matter.
Affect.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. You get good weather.
Yeah.
And to do the stuff you like to do.
Yeah.
All right. So the magic question, does that mean that you were using Zoom before everyone else?
I definitely was. I found Zoom when nobody even knew what it was, when I used to actually send out a Zoom link and they ask me if they have to download something. So I'd be like, yep, it's gonna make you download something quickly, but it's no big deal. So it was a very long time ago.
Yeah, well, I think it's we joke around because even I don't know if it was at the very end of 2019, or I think it was the very end of 2019. I'm not real sure, but someone had asked us about Zoom and, well, could we use a different camera and put that into the room and this and that? We're like, yeah, it's going to be an expensive project. Like, that's going to be a big thing. We laugh about it now. I'm like, yeah, we blew it on that. We really didn't know that product in that world yet.
Mm-hmm.
We knew streaming,
but
we didn't know about the remote, capabilities and how to utilize that in a in-person setting at that time.
Yeah, and now it's like second nature.
We're like, yeah, $15,000. Like it was some humongous thing, and now it's people pay $15 for a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, conceptually a little different time.
Mm-hmm.
But interesting. All right. Well, so I guess that kind of leads into, we're talking about virtual events and
mm-hmm.
and I know that you actually built out a whole platform. And just so everybody's aware, I mean, the platform itself, onlinegalas.com, is something that, Corporate AV has worked with MackTeck on the entire time during this pandemic, and certainly is our go-to for a certain type of event, especially the nonprofit fundraising events. It's just been great for it. But tell me, how did you get into that? How did you come up with the platform, and how's it work?
Over the years of, just building websites for nonprofits and corporations, things like that, events always started coming up. So we would be involved in supporting their in-person events. So registration pages, email marketing, giving sponsors some value by putting links up and logos up on events, things like that, on websites, things like that. And then, the pandemic happens. And everybody who we knew who had events, they just started getting canceled. And the corporation said, you know what, we're just going to wait. Most of our events really didn't matter. Like, a training can be done in the future because we thought this was going to be something short, but all the nonprofits panicked. They're like, we need to make 20, 10, 20, 30, 40, $1 million before the end of the year, before the end of June, not the end of the year, before the end of June. And we're in March. How are we doing this? So we just, did a little pivot, modified a lot of our things that we had for in-person events, added some infrastructure for virtual events, built up our server infrastructure to handle all the people coming in, things like that. And we just, this started March. We launched in end of May, beginning of June, and we just have been modifying and refining ever since. We have a very good product now. I can't say that last May it worked. It did its job, but it was really, really imperfect. But we did it, and the clients didn't know. We did. But that's everybody that started doing this right when the pandemic
you make
started.
You make improvements along the way.
I don't think
anybody would deny that.
We had something, so that's how we got into the virtual. And one thing was that since we did so many in-person events with people, we actually knew almost better than them what they needed for virtual. Because we knew what the nonprofits needed to raise their funds. We knew what the corporations needed to put on their events. Okay. They didn't know what they needed to do it on the web end. We did. Even Joe, on your end, you knew more than a lot of your clients would know. They kept trying to translate their in-person things and try and do it the exact same way. Yeah. And virtual, it never translates right, things like that. So we were able to consult with people, give people recommendations, and, we went down that road.
So what types of services are involved in that platform? Because that's always the thing that people are asking, well, can we do this? Can we do that? So what could you offer them?
So from the beginning to the end, pretty much. So if you're a corporation and you need just, a way to take on registrations, things like that, way to charge people, or way to get your staff in, if you're just doing this as an internal meeting, we have all that handled. From there, we have on the nonprofit side, we have the way for people to pay for the event, purchase tickets, purchase sponsorships. Then after that, we can provide the sponsor value, logos, videos, things like that on the actual site. Same thing for the corporate, if this is like some sort of trade show type thing or things like that. And then from there, we get into the actual event things. For corporations, it might be the full agenda, and then all the speakers and things like that. Hosting the live stream, which companies like Corporate AV would be supplying. We don't supply the actual stream. It would be an AV company doing that. So we just supply the way to put the stream out there, all in one place. So, and then on like the nonprofit side, we have like their honorees, their fundraising, all that stuff, live fundraising meter. So when people actually donate, it actually comes right up on the screen, with their names and stuff like that, which has actually been very successful for live fundraising things. Online journals or programs, things like that in the flipbook form, so that people can easily see them. Q&As, polls, raffles, live auction. Not live, online auction, silent auction type things, and things like that. And then, every time another client comes out with something custom that they need, we try to make that work too.
Tables? You got virtual tables?
Yeah, we do. We do have online tables. So people can watch a 1080 live stream, and then right below would be the guest that they could be with. So we do like tables of 10. And so it would be live stream. It could be a stream from, IBM Ustream or YouTube or Vimeo. And then right below that is our virtual table infrastructure that people can just come to the page and they get included in the table with their friends.
Interesting. Well, I think that's pretty cool. And again, these are all things that that people need in a lot of different ways, and I know we're transitioning and there's going to be a lot of in-person experiences coming back. Mm-hmm. Not everybody is ready to do that yet, though.
I know.
I've heard from a lot of people. They're like, yeah, not this year. So there still has to be, an online experience, even if it's not in combination. But let me ask you this. What have you seen as kind of like the biggest client challenges, when dealing with the virtual events and the technology? Okay.
So biggest client challenges. Number one is in the change to virtual from in person, they didn't really grasp that all the work is front loaded. Okay. All the in-person events, people would just, the work was day of a lot of the stuff. Okay, but so they would, do their fundraising and all that, but they wouldn't really have to worry that much about the event other than maybe the run of show until day of, because everybody was there to put on the show. Okay, but this actually flipped it. So your whole event is happening before, and they didn't have the staff to handle that. They didn't have the staff to put the videos together. They didn't have the mindset. So at the beginning, this was something that was challenging just to get them to understand that everything is front loaded on your planning. Okay. Right. And so that was one of our challenges. Now we're a little bit better at explaining that to people than we were with our first few events. We're better with letting them understand, like, first thing first, run of show, and then we're going to figure out what you need to get for us, do our checklist, get everything handled, give them deadlines, give them due dates, so that we have everything in order by the time we're 2 weeks out from the event. That's our goal, have everything ready to go 2 weeks out.
Sure,
Sometimes it
absolutely.
happens, sometimes it doesn't, but at least we have that in mind, and they understand that's the goal. That was one of the things. The other challenge we had was, and I mentioned it before, was trying to replicate the in-person experience. There were so many discussions that we had of people trying to replicate what they did in a banquet hall on a virtual event. And we're just like, it's not going to translate well. We can do it, possibly, for a lot of things, but we're just not going to translate well. The audience isn't going to be able to interact. It's just not going to translate. So we'll have to remove that and replace it with something that will translate well.
Right.
And that was a conversation that we used to have more in the beginning. Now people are starting to understand, after they've seen a few virtual events, that it's easy. It's an easier conversation now than it was.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's funny. We had a good question come in from our friend Marissa Madonia here. What do you say to the nonprofits or companies that think they can do it on their own? That's a good question. We certainly hear that.
We hear that a lot, I have been, a fly on the wall for a few that have done it on their own, and they have done a good job.
Good.
Usually, what ends up happening is, if somebody says they can do that, my first thing is, if they're a client that will actually listen to me, that knows me, and trusts me, okay, and then a client like that.
You're a pretty questionable character. I got to be honest. I mean, borderline at best.
Exactly. So I would start going through what they'll need to do. We have this aspect, we have this aspect. You need some way to take payments and everything to purchase the tickets. Do you have something like that? You need some way to get everything out to people, to message them, emails, text messages, things like that. Do you have that infrastructure? Now, you need to film all these videos. Do you have that infrastructure in place? Okay, you need to splice all these videos together in such a way that it actually looks right. Do you have that infrastructure in place? Or vice versa, if this is a complete live event, you have to be able to make sure that everybody who's coming in live has their camera set up correctly, has their microphone set up correctly. And as I start going through all these things that I'm saying very quickly, but seem like a ton of work, they start to, see that this isn't as straightforward as you think. This isn't just a straight, Zoom conference call where you have your staff on board. This is a lot of getting everybody together. And Joe, I don't have to tell you that sometimes the hardest part is getting somebody on camera and that you can actually hear, and sometimes you get them on camera, but for some reason it looks like they haven't cleaned their camera in a year, and you're just it's just a blur in front of them. You're looking at them through a clouded window, and you have to have that conversation. Hey, maybe you have to clean your camera, or you have to get a new one. And, that's why you sometimes do this a few days in advance instead of the day of, and when there's a problem, you have to know how to solve it. And a lot of this staff of a nonprofit doesn't know how to solve these problems. Hey, my camera won't work. Well, the staff does not have the technical ability to say, okay, well, unplug your camera, plug it back in, or let's go into device manager and see if it's even being picked up, or things like that. They don't have that ability. So that's where professional organizations come in to help.
Well, it appears that you have a fan, Nick. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's your wife writing in.
No, it's not.
Mike says best in the business speaking here. So,
well, thank you, Mike.
Now, but look, not for nothing, but I also have a fan. Now, granted, that is my wife. So, but thank you. It's very nice. I mean, she has hearts. I mean, that's a nice thing. Maybe Latari will put that up for you. I don't know. Maybe not. But no, I think your point is good, though. Your point is very solid. And there are things that I've found that they can do. It depends on the capabilities of, is it a volunteer staff? Is it someone who does actually work for the group? Even when we get to, the corporate teams and their IT side, we did an event yesterday. They know their thing. Mm-hmm. They don't necessarily know production. Yeah. And even just yesterday, we were doing something we never would normally do, but that's what we were told to do by the IT department. And there's things that are not as good, because it's not production. Yep. They just don't have that experience, but they know if you do this, this will work. Okay, we will do that then. I mean, sometimes we actually get, the ability to make it a little bit better. But in yesterday's case, that wasn't going to happen. So we just let it be and everything worked fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it could have been better. that is true. It could have been better.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean, look, you're giving your clients real information and good options. And I mean, I think that's it. So I guess, how do you anticipate your side helping everybody on the hybrid events as they get people in a room and they have an online audience? How do you anticipate that's going to work?
Okay. So, number one is everything leading up to the event, like the registration, the buying, purchasing of tickets, to getting people on board, things like that. Same thing. As a virtual event or even an in-person event, it's extremely similar. And then from there, it's the people that are in the room, they're in the venue, they have the experience, they have they're going to have a different experience than the people virtual, of course. Like, they're probably going to get a meal, there's going to be some more networking time, things like that. So on our side, we have to do things to take that into consideration, timing and things like that. But we can host the live stream, have the program virtual instead of like the in-person program, have the information about the honorees, maybe a chat box for the people to interact, maybe some sort of, if people want to do online tables, so each group gets their own table on the virtual side so they can feel like they're with their friends virtually, and things like that. Those are all aspects of like the hybrid event that make the people who can't make the in-person event for either health reasons or capacity reasons still get a good experience, and also some sort of way, think about some sort of way to include them in your hybrid event, even if it's them sending in possibly pictures from a photo booth or things like that, so that they can come up on screen, just something to make them feel like they're included. It's great for the virtual end. I think as far as the in-person end, it's going to be, everybody's just going to be happy to be there at that point. So we don't have to have as many bells and whistles as we used to. They're just going to be happy to be in the same room with other people. So
yeah, you can see it already. They're so excited. So.
They don't even know what to do. They don't even know.
So you don't really need to entertain them very much.
Yeah, they're just so happy. So it's the virtual side where you want to have a little bit more to interact.
All right. I like the idea of submitting photos and photo booths and because then, we could bring that on screen in the main room with the people who are there in person too. And, hey, there's Nick. I mean, I know he wasn't able to make it tonight, but look, he's actually still here anyways. It's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
I didn't really expect that kind of good idea out of you. I mean, I wasn't sure.
I'm happy I can impress you today, Joe.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive. I was going to type something, Nick, but it seems like, that might be all you have. So no, but what about on the fundraising side? Can we still use, the fundraising tools and have the names come on screen and everything that, you've created for the online community? So
the online community, same thing, our live fundraising meter with, the live stream going in a little window and then scrolling names across the top or side, the meter, people's names flashing when they donate with a thank you. We can do that for the virtual community. We can also do something extremely similar that could be on a projection screen or a TV somewhere in the venue, some name scrolling, people text to give phone numbers. So while people are sitting there, they can donate, and it doesn't have to be during the fund and need section of the event or things like that. It can be just, they're sitting there, they have nothing to do, they're eating dinner, they're finished, they might want to just give a few bucks. A lot of people do that, and we have the ability to have their names come up on the screen, and it would be consistent, meaning people who donate on the virtual side would be shown to the live side and vice versa, the in-person side and vice versa. That way, everybody gets their recognition on both sides.
Yeah, that's a good plan. I mean, I know that's been a great resource and tool. during, while we've been doing all these virtual events. People have been contributing. It seems very easy for them to use.
Mm-hmm.
Just text into the code, whatever they're given for that particular event. Now, if I'm not right, wasn't that the same type of system that you used for graduation?
Yeah. So in the graduation thing, so during graduations, some people want to just do congratulations, not, any kind of donation. So what we have is a way for them to the congratulatory message to come up on the screen. Now that can come up on the screen if there's an in-person aspect to the event. So a lot of graduations are hybrid now, which we're seeing the hybrid events are great because even from our end on a graduation, like we're seeing people like logging in from India and China and things like that to see their loved ones graduate that they'd never be able to see before because these things weren't live streamed. So during that, they can be on virtually and sending congratulatory messages that are showing up on the virtual side and the in-person side. So someone's loved one could send them congratulatory message while they're graduating that they would have never been able to do in the past. And, good things. Some good things do come out of the pandemic. We were forced to do things like this, and it's incredible. It really is great. I mean, and some of the messages. I mean, we did a graduation for only 100 people recently, and there were like 500 or 600 congratulatory messages. Like there were a ton of them. Like it was extremely impressive.
Could you tell like where they came from?
Yeah. So we could tell that a lot of them were from other states, other countries. This was a higher education thing. So it was older people, like older students, things like that. And it was, we saw India, we saw a lot of Europe, we saw China, we saw pretty much all over the world. It was really great.
Wow. And the reality is most of those people would not have been able to attend, right?
No.
And here it is. Now they get to celebrate with their families. I think it's really great. Yeah. It's a way to use technology to bring people together, which is kind of the point of all this in the last, 15 months. But it's existed for a while. It just wasn't to this magnitude.
Yeah, it existed. It was just we never were forced to use it. So now that we're forced to use it,
this was the only choice in the past, year.
So,
but I fully expect that we're going to be using all these tools a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, I look at some of the meetings that I would normally have to go to, and that, that could be a 4-hour window of time. I'm saying, well, why would I want to do that when I could do that same meeting in 25 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
And you buy back, hours of time. And so you can actually be much more productive. So it's interesting, but all these are great tips for people to be able to use the technology. And what about reporting? I would imagine you probably have access to a lot of reporting.
Yes. So from the reporting side of things, according to the way your event is set up, we can give the amount of data we can give is like amazing as far as, who attended, for how long they stayed, what they watched, where they attended from, things like that, how many people attended, so we have a lot more data than you would be able to have the granular control over in a in-person event, because, we're watching, our website is watching what everybody does, and keeping track of what everybody does, according to the reporting needs, sometimes down to the minute. So that we know that, hey, this person was on this page during this time, especially sometimes corporations love that because if they're doing some kind of internal event and they want to make sure that their people are doing what they're supposed to do during that event, they can actually have a report from us saying, hey, Joe Smith was at this, watching this at this time from between this time and this time, which is where he was supposed to be, so a lot of times, corporations like that. And then on the nonprofit side, just to know where people are coming from, how many people are coming, who's showing up, the nonprofits are seeing a lot of people, a lot of friends and family of people in the organization coming from other states to watch, where that wasn't an in-person thing. That was like virtually they were able to come and watch, and they gave some donations while they were there and they became involved, right. Which is really great.
Yeah. So, but it sounds like with all this reporting that maybe we're too worried about Google and Apple, and we should be worried about MackTeck. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Okay. All right.
I'm not going that deep. I'm just
All right. All right.
watching what they're doing during the event, not after they leave the event. That's Google.
All right. I'm only messing around.
That's Google's job.
Yeah, no, I mean, the information's been tremendous, and
Mhm.
and that's ultimately how you make decisions, and I do want to come back to that piece in just a minute, but tell me, do you think it's important for clients to have a website for their events?
Yes, it is. What we have found is it gives, if you have your website up for an event and you actually do it on the nonprofit end, if you do it a few weeks before, so you can use it in your marketing, it actually brings in a lot of donations beforehand. A lot of things we've seen with the websites and stuff like that was that, having something tangible with the event branding and all of that, right, for your attendees to see, for your constituency to see, makes it real. So they get there, they see a countdown clock, they see the honorees, they see some sort of journal or program, all of the sponsors, they see all these things, and then, they either purchase a ticket because, it looks like fun, or they just give a straight up donation. So that was something that we found, which was, we really weren't doing that much with the in-person events before we started doing the virtual. And so as we're starting to translate over, we're going to keep on running with that so that people can get the donations ahead of time, and then also during the event, but it front loads a few donations also. And then on the corporate side, it makes them, having a website that's actually branded to your company makes your corporation look so much more professional. That just having a bland website, let's say like a Zoom, where everybody comes to and it looks the same as a conference call, doesn't do anything for your organization. It makes them look the same as everyone else. So having something that's branded makes all the difference. And then, there's all kinds of custom aspects that you can add to make the experience better.
I like the idea of it standing out. I mean, there's just so much noise all the time. You think of all those emails, you get all those messages, every YouTube, every website, all these things that just coming in all day, that having a branded website makes a huge difference.
And then, like, some events will like stream to multiple locations. I want to put it on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I want to have it in all these places. But then you have spread out your audience. I mean, it's like saying you're going to do an in-person event and have it in 4 locations. No, you want everybody in one place, so they all can get the same experience. Using social media to stream your event, putting something on YouTube, you're limited what you're allowed to show people in the description. Same thing with Facebook, same thing with Twitter. You don't have the ability to have the honoree pictures, any kind of sponsor messaging. You don't have that ability. Where with if you have a website and you have a private stream going on your website, you have full control over everything.
It's an excellent point, because we've seen that. I mean, we of course we've streamed out to 8 different places at a time, and when you're trying to pull information, it's really hard. It's it's fragmented. The one thing that's good about it, it's usually designed for a group that's very public facing. So it's a B2C type of product. You're trying to reach the general public. All right, well, that's different because you need a volume. It's a certain volume, and social media reaches a lot of people. But to try to coordinate all those streams and everything, I got to tell you, each platform, each thing, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, Twitter, Instagram, has their own set of rules. None of them are the same. And so you literally have to change everything you're doing for each one of them. And, it lends itself to some confusion. Now, you can use certain platforms that, like we use Restream for certain things, where you send it to one place and it goes out, and it shoots it out there automatically. Problem is, you do lose control. So it's a balance. And if one of them gets interrupted, usually it restarts on that page. Like it goes back to the beginning, which is not what you want to happen. So it's just a balance, right? Know your goals, I guess.
And then you end up with the other thing of the most important person that's watching this from your organization always picks the social media platform that the least people are on, and they see currently viewing 4 people when everybody's on Facebook. Hundreds are on Facebook. There's 4 on Twitter, and they're asking the questions of why isn't anybody? Is it working? Why isn't anybody showing up to my event? You know, things like that. And you have those questions to answer. Hey, just go to Facebook. They're all there. You know. So,
I think the social media platforms are really good for the promoting and then the after, so that you can always take that video and then post it afterwards, which I think we're going to see a lot of after with the hybrid situation coming. Because then you can reach people and use that. You have content, you're building content all the time at that point. You can chop it up, use it in pieces. I mean, but I know I've seen better results when we have one dedicated place for everybody to go. It is just, and it's also a lot easier, right? Think if there are a certain age group of people that have a hard time with all these different social media platforms and all the different, virtual event platforms, which there's literally a new one I hear about every day. So it doesn't matter if it's, Hopin or Socio or, Hubelo or the 100 other ones. They have trouble registering. They have trouble if you're in a corporate office, your VPN, your firewall may not even let you connect to them anyways. There's a whole bunch of different things. Whereas if you're just going on a website, it's very easy to get that information to every age group and everyone at once. So I think it's been very successful. But
and you can have on the website, you can have a support chat if people need help. Where you really can't do that on Facebook and any other social media. So you can have a support chat. We do plenty of events, and when they do have a support chat, very few people use it, but you always get a few, and a lot of times they're key people that are having trouble.
That's good to know.
So it's a good thing it's a good ability to have.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I wanted to come back to the reporting piece just for a second. I'm guessing that you're probably fairly familiar with Google Ads and email marketing and some of these other, which are really more marketing and promotion. But isn't your website really a promotional tool for most of your clients?
Yes. So your website is a promotional tool. But when I first started building websites a long time ago, it was like you built a website. It was like having an ad in a magazine, so it was just another way to promote your business, promote what you're doing. Now you have to promote your promotion. Okay. So now we build a website, and if you don't promote it, it's like a billboard in the desert. Nobody sees it. So we have to add that other layer of promotion. And that is a conversation in itself, but things like Google Ads are a great place to start. Excuse me. They are something that's instant gratification. You pay your money, you get people to your website. Okay, great and everything. I mean, like I said, it's a conversation in itself. A couple tips on that is, one thing you have to remember with Google Ads is it's designed to make Google money, not you. So if you do take them up on their offer to sign up for an account, take their $100 for free, set everything up, and then you start going down and taking all their recommendations, that's for them to make money. Okay, their optimization recommendations is for them. So they're going to get you to optimize to 100%, and your campaign will make you some money and them a lot. So our most successful ad campaigns are in the 20 to 30% optimized range. Okay, which we get alerts every single time we log into those portals with those low percentages, but we are getting the best ROI for the client. So remember that. And then the other thing is, and this I tell everyone, there are 3 types of keywords: broad match, exact match, and phrase match. You never want to do broad match. Broad match is the thing that very rarely brings you a qualified lead. So broad match is the default in Google Ads. Okay. So you want to change it to either phrase match or exact match. Okay, so that's Google Ads. Anything else, Joe? Any other?
Yeah, I got more.
Okay.
I mean, what do you think? I only got one question. Come on, man. I've been doing this for months.
What else we got for marketing?
Well, how about email marketing? Whether
Okay.
it's a MailChimp or, the hell's the other one?
Constant Contact,
Constant
MailChimp,
Contact. I don't know why I went blank.
Aweber. There's a ton of them. So
those are the big dogs, though.
In my opinion, the platforms are pretty much irrelevant. You find one that works for you, is in your budget, things like that you know how to use. After that, they all just about do the same thing. They keep a list and send to your clients. So things about email marketing is, as everybody knows, we get a ton of it. We get bombarded with emails. You have to figure out what your client base, customer base, donors, whatever, are looking for. Okay, when you send them an email, don't just send them boring emails. Don't send them don't send them like updates that are irrelevant to them. Try to draw them in with every single email, or they're just going to either put you in their promotions tab that they never look at, and you think they're getting your emails, or they're going to unsubscribe. So you have to come up with a campaign. Decide on the campaign. If you're going to do weekly, figure out 6 weeks, 8 weeks out, everything you're going to do, and have a funnel for these people. Okay, have a purpose, have an end goal. That would be your best way of having a successful email marketing campaign.
Man, it sounds like a lot of work.
It is. It's not just sending a few emails. It is a lot of work.
Well, I guess that's probably why people call you.
Yeah.
It's probably why they reach out to you. Well, look, we're getting close to 45 minutes, and I don't want to tie you up too much. I know that over at MackTeck, you got a lot of things going on. But I do have one final question for you. Maybe any final tips you might have for people in terms of how they're using technology to market their events and their services.
Okay, so on the event side, don't forget that the whole purpose of events is about making connections. Okay, it's about being involved with people. So try to bring that to your virtual event. Try to bring that to your hybrid event. In person is fairly easy. Everybody's in the same room for the most part, but try to make that connection. Stay active on social. More than just post saying, hey, June 16th is my virtual event. No, do things like post images that would trigger somebody, maybe short impact videos, post things that people would want to share. That's your goal. Include things like that in your email marketing also. As far as websites go, like I said, you have to promote your website. Always stay on top of the promotion. Google Ads is a good start. Email marketing is a good start, but you have to develop a campaign that includes everything. Little bit here and there that would make it so that your website is higher in Google, in front of people, things like that. That's your goal.
So you mean you don't want it to be a billboard in the desert?
No, you don't.
I'm going with that all day long today. All day long.
I've been using that for 10. Anybody who knows me has heard that come out of my mouth. A billboard in the desert. We're not building a billboard in the desert, guys. What are we doing? The other thing that people really have to understand is the marketing of your website, your event and everything needs some sort of online budget. Putting it on social media, a lot of the times people don't even see it, even if they're following you. Facebook, Twitter, they don't show it to them unless you're promoting it. So you have to pay them for your followers to see it. Okay, so have some sort of budget. Okay, if it's an event, have some sort of budget for the promotion of these posts. If you're a company just selling product or things like that, figure out a budget, a small one, do it, get a return on investment, and then ramp it up. Okay, so you actually have some rinse and repeat method of getting new clients, getting new sales.
That's a great point. And one we wouldn't necessarily think of coming from a website designer. But I think that's the point, is that you're a lot more involved in the process than just, hey, give me some pictures and some text and I'll get this thing up for you next week.
A lot
there's got to be
involved.
a thought process.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's why you're doing so well with it, you know. And again, being able to meet the client where they have those needs, like by creating that virtual platform, I think is very on point. And it speaks to the breadth of services and the understanding that, honestly, I don't think many website designers, I don't think they could care less about, you know, what people actually do. They just want to get the page out there and get the check, you know.
I mean, that is common. I can't say all, but there are a few. But
well, you're on the right path there, Nick. I think you might know what you're doing.
I hope so.
I mean, I was on the fence when we started this conversation, but I'm feeling pretty good about it now, I got to say. But listen, before I let you go, any questions for me? I mean, I'm happy to help any way I can, Nick.
I don't think I have any today, Joe. I'm gonna keep it simple for you. I'm not going to put you on the spot.
Okay, all right. I mean, I can function in that, but that's okay. I think we've taken up enough of your time. But listen, thank you again for joining us, and we really appreciate it. Anybody, if you guys want to learn more about Nick and MackTeck, 3Ws, MackTeck.com. Check it out. You know, I'm sure if you need any sort of website design or development, Nick is your guy. He'll do a great job for you. And I think you can tell just by the conversation that he'll actually try to learn what you do first, before just building a website.
Yeah.
So, but hey, listen, thank you, Nick. I appreciate your time, and we're gonna be wrapping up the show. So I got to boot you off. Hope you don't mind.
Bye, Joe. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. So, you know, there you go. There's an expert. You know, while the last few weeks we've been talking about the opening, all of the in-person activities and how that's going to affect everybody in the event industry, the reality is, you know, the virtual side isn't going away. You just have to learn how to connect the dots on both sides and get that online audience involved. And the first thing to do with that maybe is to build a website. I don't know. Maybe we reach out to our friend Nick here and we find out how we might be able to help. But either way, listen, I thank everyone for joining us today. We had some great comments. You know, I didn't get to announce this one, but Marissa, people love analytics, 100% right. I got to tell you, it makes our job much easier when we have those reports in our hands, you know. And Mike Latari had a great comment when we were talking about graduations and having those congratulatory messages from people outside of, you know, the country and outside of the state, outside of the local environment, people who never would have been able to make it. And I thought that's really a great point, because there's no reason to stop that part of the event. That part has worked out really well. So there's a lot of things that we can learn from these past 15, 16 months. And now we have some new ways to adapt and develop for the future. So I think you start with a website first, just like Nick from MackTeck had said. But listen, I think we're going to wrap up. Thank you, everybody. We are going to see you next Wednesday, 1 o'clock. Don't forget, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Take care. Have a great day.